There are places in China, so high, so quiet, so unmarked. Even locals can't believe they exist. Not because they're myths, but because they're too real to be unreal. And maybe that's the point. You're not supposed to find them by following signs. You find them when you run out of reasons to keep walking. What happens next will change how you think about travel. This isn't just a trip. This is awakening. A wooden plank, 1 foot wide, 5,000 feet up. No barriers. You must crawl on your hands and knees while the world drops away. A cave where lies have no echo and your past calls back. You must speak your truth into the dark. Then, a mountain with 5 nameless peaks, where monks walk backward and wind blows wrong. You have to climb in reverse, face the path you came from, until you forget which way is up. This isn't just another travel documentary. This is your invitation to witness the unseen China that exists beyond guidebooks and imagination, where beauty doesn't just catch your eye, it stops your heart and makes you wonder, what else have we been missing? They say Mount Huashan is one of the most dangerous hikes on Earth. But no one tells you the real danger is what it whispers back to you when there's no more noise. I wasn't afraid of heights until I stepped onto the plank and saw my own reflection in the glass. Not above me, not behind, but under my feet, like something inside me, looking up. Have you ever felt your heartbeat echo through wood? Not in your chest, but in the soles of your feet. That's how Mount Huashan breathes. It doesn't move. It lets you tremble until you find stillness on your own. Located in Shaanxi Province, about 75 miles east of Xi'an, Mount Huashan stands over 7,000 feet high, a spine of granite cliffs, once believed to hold immortal secrets. The Huashan cliffside plank walk is just 12 inches wide, bolted into sheer cliffside, with nothing below but cloud and silence. No railings, no guides, only a harness, and your breath. This was the path monks used to reach hidden Taoist temples carved into the stone, believing the higher you went, the less you needed to speak, until even prayer became breath. My breath changed on the 3rd step, not because I was scared, but because, for the first time in years, I was finally still. Suddenly, I couldn't hear the people behind me, couldn't hear my guide, couldn't even hear the mountain, just the sound of my own breath getting slower. I touched the cliff. It was warm, like it remembered others, not who climbed, but who surrendered. Then I saw him. A man, mid-50s, maybe more, sitting still before the final ledge, not moving, not taking photos, just breathing. I asked why he stopped. He said, "Not every summit is meant to be reached. Some are meant to be heard." On the way down, I pressed my hand to the glass bridge. It didn't crack, but something inside me did. And just then, a local woman passed me. She bowed, not to the mountain, but to the wind. I asked her why. She said, "Because it knows who dared to breathe first." Then she paused, looked past me and whispered, "If your breath has truly changed, you'll hear it next. In the cave that doesn't echo, lies, and on the mountain that only shows itself when you stop speaking." An old man near the entrance told me, "If you lie inside this cave, the stone won't answer." I laughed. He didn't. He just stepped back, like he was afraid of what my voice might bring in. Have you ever said something out loud just to see if anyone would hear it? And when no one did, you weren't sure if it was because of them or you. LAOJUN Mountain rises above the mists of Guizhou, about a 3-hour drive southwest of Guiyang. 6,200 feet high, named after Lao Tzu, the old sage of Tao. Locals say his soul still walks these cliffs on mornings when the fog forgets to move. But he left behind something deeper, something that doesn't rise. JIGUAN Cave. The locals don't say its name out loud. They call it the place with a listening heart. It drops more than 3,000 feet into the earth. A cold, breathing cavern that glows red at sunrise on ghost festival mornings. Inside, your breath shortens. Not from fear, but from the weight of things you haven't said. The walls drip slowly, but not randomly. The drops feel timed, measured, like an old clock keeping track of silence. A boy sweeping leaves near the gate told me, "This cave knows when you're not ready." When I asked how he knew, he said, "Because it never answered my father, and he never came back the same." The guide handed me a candle. No flashlight, no words, just one nod, and he disappeared into the dark. I walked alone. No sound, no echo. I whispered a name I hadn't said in years. Someone I wronged, but never told the truth to. Nothing came back. Not even my own breath. I tried again. Still silence. But this time, it felt personal. Like the cave wasn't refusing. It was remembering. There was a moment when I thought I saw movement in the wall. Like a face, but softer than stone. Watching me, not with eyes, but with memory. Then I turned. An old woman in a red shawl was sweeping the floor behind me. Not startled, not surprised. She said, "Some caves wait for you to tell the right version of the story. Not the loudest one, not the one you've practiced, but the one you never dared say aloud." She pointed to a puddle beside my feet. The candle flickered, and in that flicker, I saw my face. But I wasn't blinking. When I stepped out, I thought I'd feel lighter. But instead, I felt like something had stayed behind. Not something I lost. Something that had been waiting for me to leave it there. As I turned back, I heard a bell. Just one. No monks, no ropes, no wind. Just one, clear chime. Then, through the swirling mist, a little girl stepped out, wearing a red wool scarf, too big for her neck, dragging slightly in the wet grass. She didn't say anything, just placed her small hand over her chest, then pointed quietly toward the ridge ahead, where another mountain stood, half hidden, breathing slowly into the clouds. And in that pause, I felt it. That mountain don't need your voice. It hunger for your silence. A nun sweeping the temple steps told me, "If you reach the summit and still breathe evenly, the mountain hasn't accepted you." I asked why. She didn't answer, just swept slower, then said, "Some truths require thinner air." Have you ever been somewhere so quiet you were afraid your breath would interrupt it? Not because it was loud, but because it didn't belong. That's what WUTAI felt like. Not sacred because of prayer, but because it no longer asked for any. Mount WUTAI in northern Shanxi stands over 10,000 feet tall, the highest of China's 4 sacred Buddhist mountains. 5 peaks, endless fog, and a silence so complete it feels carved from stone. The name means 5 Terrace Mountain, but no terraces welcome you here. Only winding paths, temples with no names, and monks who don't ask questions. One legend says, if you visit during a moonless night, the wooden statue of Manjusri, the bodhisattva of wisdom, will whisper a memory you were never supposed to forget. That night, I stayed in a monastery with no electricity. Only a thin blanket, a paper window, and the sound of wind trying to remember its name. I didn't dream. But when I woke up, a single bell rang. Far, soft, not calling, just reminding. Later, I walked past a temple where a young monk was walking backwards, slow, careful steps around the main hall. He didn't look up, but as I passed, he said, "Progress isn't always forward. Sometimes, surrender is movement." That hit me harder than any climb, because I realized I wasn't climbing anymore. I was returning. And I wasn't trying to reach anything. I was learning how to leave. Near the summit, there's a prayer stone people touch for blessings. But I didn't touch it. I just sat beside it and exhaled. Not out of relief, but because I didn't need to carry anything anymore. Behind me, an old woman lit 3 sticks of incense. One for the past, one for the truth, one for what could never be spoken. She didn't say a word, just placed a small object in my hand. A thread, red, frayed, warm, like it had been waiting in someone's pocket for years. I looked up to ask why, but she was already walking away. And carved into the rock behind her were 5 characters, worn down, but still breathing. Not all silence is empty. I came to this place hoping to hear something, but what I found was the sound of nothing finally being enough. I left Mount WUTAI without a photo, without proof, only the thread still in my hand. And before the fog swallowed the last ridge, a child beside the steps whispered, "Next time, don't just breathe out. Ask yourself, what are you willing to never take back in?" Mount Huashan taught me how to begin, not by stepping forward, but by pausing long enough to feel the fear without naming it. LAOJUN Mountain showed me that silence isn't absence. It's a mirror. It listens and it remembers. And on Mount WUTAI, I learned how to let go, not because I solved anything, but because I no longer needed to prove that I could hold on. I left the highlands with no answers, no conclusions, only breath and a thread, still warm. So if something in you stopped moving a long time ago, maybe this is your place to pause, to feel stillness without fixing it, to breathe out without asking what comes next. And if you saw yourself anywhere in this journey, just stay. Just stay.